GALP.
Man, I'm so hungry. I wonder where the nearest McDonald's is. Excuse me, do you know where the nearest Macca's is?
すみません。英語が話せません。Sorry, no English.
Don't be like our boy Gaza. Be prepared next time you're in Japan. Get Wi-Fi coverage across Japan and Google where to go. Rent a mini Wi-Fi router or eSIM with Ninja Wi-Fi. Trusted by 21 million customers worldwide, Ninja Wi-Fi provides great service for an affordable price. Visit ninjawifi.com and use the code GAL for 20% off.
この番組はグランドスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Hey guys, and welcome to GALP. It's me, Bish, as always. And this week we are going to come in with a sort of slightly shorter episode because that's what we're doing now. I've got some fluff in my mouth. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, like I said, so how it's gonna work out is that we're gonna get smaller episodes during the week, and on the weekends you guys can get a longer episode with me and Jacob, which is great. So this week's smaller episode is gonna be focusing on One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, and you're like, what? Bish, why are we talking about One Piece, Musou? Very good point, because Bandai actually sent us a code for it. So shout out to Bandai Namco Games for giving us a code, and also big shout out to our sponsors that you may have heard at the beginning of this episode. So just so you guys know, I have zero experience with the One Piece series. I've never read the manga, never watched the anime, or even played the games. So One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 is my first interaction with One Piece as a series. Having never played a One Piece Musou game, I didn't really know what to expect. However, I'm going to be honest, I was pleasantly surprised. Omega Force, aka Koei Tecmo, developed this game, although it had been licensed and published by Bandai Namco. And Koei and Bandai has had this sort of relationship before because they've produced many Musou games for Bandai, I believe. So they worked on games like Dynasty Warriors, Gundam. So they worked on Gundam 1, 2, 3, and Reborn, which is obviously the fourth game, I believe. And yeah, they've worked on a ton of other games. It's very interesting to see how this game has sort of impacted the Musou community. And bear in mind, this game originally released during COVID. Actually, I think it was like during 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And we're only talking about it today because it got a re-release on more modern consoles. Think Switch 2, PS5, etc. And I believe there is a free update if you already own the game. So, and you get additional content with that as well. Let's see what the additional content was. Obviously, there's more characters, but you get, let me check. You get the Future Island Egghead pack. Yeah. So the pack introduced Rob Lucci. I don't know who that is. S Snake, Jewelry Bonnie. I do not know any of these characters, like I mentioned. The PS5 version and the Xbox Series version and the Switch 2 version has improved graphics, improved visuals, faster loading times, and an increased number of on-screen enemies. And like I mentioned, it's a free upgrade for those who already own the game. So if you already own the game on PS4, or if you already own the game on the Switch, then you do get a free update for the upgraded versions on PS5 and Switch 2, etc. So yeah, let's talk about it. It's actually also, I didn't know this, there is until November 23rd. Actually, no, we've already passed that. I was going to say until November 23rd, there is a free play day for this game, but we're in December. Anyway, besides the point. So the game changes how I feel about what Musou should be. One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 ticks all of the boxes for me. All of the elements of a great Musou is in Pirate Warriors 4, as well as some new features that add to the awesome experience. And like I mentioned, some stuff that we have seen in games like Warriors Origins, Dynasty Warriors Origins, Warriors Abyss, Warriors Orochi 4 even. So there's a lot of content that we've seen make its way over. The first thing that strikes me is the visuals. I am personally not a fan of the 3D anime art style, although in this case it makes sense. It's very faithful to the anime and manga. I just find it very jarring in a Musou game. So yeah, the interface is very colorful. It's not something that we usually see in Koei's other Musou games, and I'm happy because it helps me focus on the crazy gameplay a bit more, right? It's clear that this game is designed first and foremost for the One Piece fans in mind, especially fans who have never really experienced hack and slash games or Musou games. You can tell this pretty much as soon as you boot up the game. The tutorial feels quite dumbed down, even for a Musou game. And I know a lot of people tend to, make fun of Musou games and say, oh, just button mashing and whatnot. But the tutorial really just made me feel dumb. I just didn't like it. The graphics that pop up on screen are very flashy, reminiscent of games like Warriors All-Stars. It can be annoying at times. Also, I thought I wasn't necessarily expecting battle notifications to appear in the middle of the screen instead of the bottom like we normally see in Musou games. Nor was I expecting the minimap to be fixed permanently at the bottom right of the screen. That doesn't really happen. The more I played, the more I realized it was made to show off more of those crazy movesets and the characters they have in this game. Speaking of characters, there is so many DLC characters from the initial release. It's kind of insane. I think this game has more characters than even like Warriors Orochi. It's getting to that point. I might be mistaken, but they're putting in a lot of support for this game, and the fact that Koei is supporting this game at least for 5 years. I mean, the game initially got released in 2020. It's 2025 now, going into 2026. Koei is really, really supporting this game. And I'm not sure if it's to do with their licensing agreement or anything like that, or development agreements and whatnot, but I don't think any Musou game has gotten this level of support before, of all time, right? On top of that, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 has destructible environments. It blew my mind seeing Luffy break a palm tree or Sanji destroying a building with a special attack. That's not all. This game adds a dash mechanic. Uses the circle button that would actually be used for Musou attacks normally. This change helps to increase the pace of the game and its overall action. In addition, there is no blocking in this game. So if you are a seasoned Musou fan, then you wouldn't really like it because you can't block. You have to evade by pressing circle. So like I said, the only way to avoid enemy attacks is to evade them by dashing, which I see as a welcome change because personally, if you guys know me, I never use the block button in Musou games at all. And I've seen Koei implement these features in more modern Musou games, right? If we're talking about games like Samurai Warriors 5 or even titles like Dynasty Warriors Origins has that dash mechanic. It still has the Musou modes, and it still has the Musou attacks, but you can still dash and do things like that and evade, and it's pretty cool. Speaking of movesets, this is the first Musou game developed by Omega Force that doesn't have Musou attacks. It's a small change, but it makes a very huge impact and actually changes the way that Musou works. I was worried before reviewing the game that I would hate this change. But on the contrary, I kind of love not having Musou attacks. It sounds pretty sacrilegious as a Musou fan, but Omega Force has pulled it off. They replaced Musou attacks with special attacks triggered by pressing a combination of the R1 and face buttons, similar to games like Dynasty Warriors 9. Although, I will have to say this, Dynasty Warriors 9 did have Musou attacks, they weren't that good, and then they did have the face button attacks that we see here in One Piece Pirate Warriors, but they weren't that meaningful. In this game they are, because you don't have Musous, so it's almost as if each one of those face button attacks is a Musou, and they do have unique animations, and in some cases, they're basically Musous in the sense that you'll have everything will stop around you, and you'll get a little voice line and the special animation to go with it, similar to a Musou attack. Yeah, like I said, some of these are basically Musou attacks, and others are buffs that are applied to the special playable character. They're similar to games like Tokiden or Warriors All-Stars. These are kind of dated references because I don't think anyone would know what Tokiden is or Warriors All-Stars at this point. But another thing that I've noticed from games like All-Stars and Musou Orochi is character types. This game features a range of character types with varying attributes such as speed, power, and technique, as well as flying. There's a level of verticality that actually kind of goes on in this game because the flying character type is very new to Musou in general. It works better with aerial attacks, and if you didn't realize already by me saying this, this game has aerial attacks, which is fantastic because it adds a level of verticality to the gameplay that we haven't seen in Musou games since Dynasty Warriors Strike Force. And there is a reason for aerial combos because they've introduced Titan mode and giant boss battles, like the ones that we see in the tutorial mission with Big Mom. At first glance, the game seems very simple, but that's because it's a Musou. However, with all these new game modes and features, the game becomes incredibly complex, unlike any Musou I've seen before, which has been really refreshing, especially if you're someone like me that's been playing Musou for like the last 30 years. As I mentioned before, it's my first experience with One Piece. I don't really know the story. I do feel that game's summary of One Piece's story is lacking. It's hard to expect a game to try and summarize over 1,000 episodes of an anime, but I think it could have been done better. Maybe a text summary of each arc, like how they've done it in Dynasty Warriors gallery mode, or, you know, speaking of the game story, it's actually loosely based off the Wano country arc, which was actually being aired at the time of the original release of this game. So by playing the game, I don't feel like you would be spoiling the anime or the manga for yourself. That being said, I don't really want to, watch One Piece. I understand that games like this often serve to promote its source material in the same way that the anime does. But, I'll say this. Although I don't want to spend the time getting into One Piece, I will definitely spend the time playing this game because the playable characters are amazing. Each has very unique movesets, which is unheard of in any hack and slash game, especially a Musou game, as well as their interesting character traits from the anime that actually affect gameplay. For example, Sanji gets distracted when an opponent is female, meaning he is weaker in battle, and the game actually recommends that you don't play as Sanji in battles that have female opponents. I would say if I was to watch the anime or read the manga, I would definitely appreciate this game more. But then, because then I would understand the characters and how they interacted with each other within the universe. That being said, I do love this game because of the improvements that it did introduce into Musou. So without this, we wouldn't have improvements that we've seen in, games like Samurai Warriors 5 or Warriors Orochi 4 or even Dynasty Warriors Origins. So yeah, I do want Omega Force to kind of take notice. This is sort of the thing that we wanted for future Warriors games, and we did get it. And like I said, there are a lot of small changes that can make a huge impact, and this game is a perfect example of that. And dare I say, it is one of the best Musou games out there. Maybe even the best. I'm not too sure. Anyway, that being said, that was my review of One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. If you want to get it, it's pretty much on every console, at this point. PS5, newly released. Xbox Series, newly released. Switch 2, newly released. And if you already owned those games, the original, then guess what? You can upgrade to the PS5 version, to the Switch 2 version, to the Xbox Series version, if you had them on the previous gen consoles. So what are you waiting for? Yeah. And yeah, I'd like to express my gratitude to Bandai Namco Europe for actually providing me with an opportunity to play this game and write the review and actually talk about it a bit more. So yeah, thanks Bandai. We love you guys. Yeah. And actually thank them for making the game. Yeah. Anyway, that being said, we will see you guys probably next week or on the weekend episode with Jacob. And I believe we're going to be talking about Dead or Alive. What? Yeah, actually, no, we're going to record it on the weekend. So this episode is going to come out and then we're going to record the Dead or Alive episode. No, we did do the Dead or Alive. You know what? I'm getting confused now. I can't remember my schedule. I think on the weekend, you're going to get a Dead or Alive episode kind of dedicating to how we got into Dead or Alive as a series and reminiscing a little bit about the Koei Tecmo community. And then next week, we'll probably be talking about Persona. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.